Piracy is making a comeback. Remember when everyone used to pirate songs and movies? It may feel like ancient history now, but before streaming, many people illegally downloaded or bought movies and albums for access. That's why at the start of many movies, especially pirated ones, you'd often see comparisons like stealing an exam to buying pirated movies. The least effective ad in history? But later, piracy dropped significantly with the arrival of companies like Spotify and Netflix, which offered an appealing alternative. That no longer seems true, or so I suggested. I found Raced's video essay "Streaming Was a Mistake" very interesting, so I'll revisit parts of it. I will expand on the information and adapt it for the Latin American audience, because this video focuses specifically on what is happening in the United States. Is streaming dying and are we entering a new era of piracy? That's what we'll explore today. My name is Go the Monitor Geek, and today we're going to take piracy very seriously. Chapter 1. Life Pre-Streaming. To grasp streaming's future, we must first know its origins and what drove its massive growth. And that's why, before talking about streaming in movies and television, we first have to talk about how streaming evolved in music. Since the change happened there first. For example, in the mid-90s, we had limited ways to hear a song we liked. The most common thing was to wait for the video to play on music television back when they still played music, or to listen to it on the radio. But it was a matter of luck, they didn't always play it. The song you wanted if you truly wanted to enjoy it fully.
Usually, people saved money to buy the album or cassette.
Not only was it expensive, but you often bought an album for one song only to find the rest wasn't great. So when pirated CDs started to appear, they immediately became a very attractive option to have more music. Not only because they were cheaper, but also because they made compilations of a certain band or genre, like greatest hits of Caifanes. Yes, I'm the one at parties who says, play Caifanes. The biggest blow wasn't from pirated CDs, but from a company called Napster. It changed everything. Before, you had to buy the whole album, but Napster let you get just the song you wanted. Plus, it was totally free, though the internet was very slow. I remember spending hours downloading the Limp Bizkit song from Mission Impossible 2, but overall it seemed like a good deal. Then came services like LimeWire or Airs, so piracy became an even bigger problem. It made Metallica's drummer and the music industry tremble, leading to solutions like iTunes, which sold individual songs for 99 cents. This solution didn't work for the companies, especially outside the United States, since iTunes just offered convenience. But the offer still wasn't good enough to make us abandon the 7 Cs. Ahoy, sailors! Would this change years later with Spotify, which offered a vast music catalog at low cost and even a free ad-supported version? The mix of convenience and low prices greatly reduced piracy, although there were also major consequences for the music industry because it had to change radically. Most bands and artists now earn a living from live shows and performances, not record sales. That's a topic for another video. Understanding the music industry's shift from physical formats to streaming helped us better grasp what's happening with streaming in cinema today. And well, maybe one moment. And the thing is, even though many teenagers started pirating songs around the year 2000, the same didn't happen with movies and television shows. Because remember, the internet was very slow. In Mexico, selling pirated movies in street markets became increasingly common, even though it's supposedly punishable by law. Later on, you would even see established stores selling pirated movies. I mean, not street vendors, but actual established stores. It became so advanced that I once encountered it. A pirated movie store sorted Oscar-nominated films by category. They truly offered great service. Especially since, unlike the first pirated movies in BCD format, which looked lower quality, the new pirated movies had identical visual quality. Sometimes they earned even less than the originals, which hurt original movie sales. With a better internet, many began downloading movies through torrents. Maybe this was never an option for everyone, either due to limited technical knowledge or finding it annoying. The industry was about to change with Netflix, which began by renting movies but later shifted its business model to become the streaming giant we know today. And in this sense, Netflix worked in a way very similar to Spotify, because it presented the public with an offer where there was a large amount of content available conveniently at a very attractive price. Here in Mexico, it started at about $5 a month, which made the world completely fall in love with this service, starting a golden age of streaming great content at a low cost. But well, unfortunately, maybe it was too good to last. Chapter 2, Streaming's Decline. According to what Rice mentions in his video, there are 3 key factors to understand why streaming might be in decline and why people might be going back to piracy. Let's go over these 3 points. The first issue is the competition among streaming services, as each company pulled their productions from Netflix to launch their own platforms. Netflix's innovative model of offering extensive content for a low price was highly successful. In 2013, they reported profits of $112 million. Every year, the company reported more and more subscribers. In that same 2013, the company had fewer than 50 million subscribers worldwide. By 2017, it reached 100 million. By 2020, during the pandemic, the number had surpassed 200 million subscribers. And well, obviously, these numbers didn't go unnoticed. Major studios like Warner and Disney had long licensed their movies and series to Netflix for its catalog. They began to believe it was better to keep their productions and launch their own streaming service. Warner launched Home Box Office Max with Harry Potter, Detective Comics, and Home Box Office, while Disney started Disney Plus with Disney, Star Wars, and Marvel. I mean, even Televisa and Univision created VCs with telenovelas, Chespirito shows, and a ton, and I really mean a ton, of ads. More than any other streaming service I've seen. Wasn't this supposed to be a Mexico without hunger, Claudia? The war between streaming services had begun. And in this battle, each of the services tried to attract more users to their platform by creating completely original and exclusive content. This leads to my second point. All the content you want to watch is now spread across multiple platforms. To follow Mandalorian and The Last of Us, you need Disney Plus, Home Box Office Max, and similar services. Each streaming service has exclusive titles, so you now need multiple subscriptions, not just Netflix, to watch all the shows you want. This entire war has caused unexpected consequences, often negative for both users and companies. For example, in an effort to attract users to Home Box Office Max during the pandemic, Warner released all its movies in theaters and on Home Box Office Max simultaneously. As a fan, you'd be thrilled, right? But the company lost millions of dollars in the process. Disney also tried to draw users to Disney Plus by creating series from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. However, there were so many series developed that they ended up affecting the franchise. Because now it felt like you had to watch a bunch of series to understand the movies. 2025 was the Marvel Cinematic Universe's worst box office year in a long time. Another result of content oversupply. Have you heard of the paradox of choice? We had never had so much content available to watch, but for some reason it's getting harder and harder to choose what to watch. You've probably sat in front of the television to watch something. You open one of your many streaming platforms, check out Ibarreche's recommendations, read the reviews of the new series, and in the end you decide to watch Malcolm in the Middle again. This is common. Psychologist Barry Schwartz discusses the paradox of choice. A phenomenon that tells us that even though having many options at your fingertips might seem like something positive, the reality is that too many options can cause us anxiety, indecision, and even dissatisfaction. After choosing, that's why you end up watching Malcolm again. Decision fatigue from too many options. What about when you get home after a long workday? You don't want to search multiple streaming platforms just to find a recommended show. You want to relax by quickly watching something. For example, I only watch streaming services to relax. Because even though I could just pirate it, just the idea of grabbing the computer, the HDMI cable, connecting it, the USB or whatever, or the idea of any extra step. Personally, it already exhausts me, but that's just me. The final point Reyes makes in his video is about streaming service price increases. In Mexico, Netflix and Home Box Office Max just announced price increases. I don't know if you experience this, but I keep getting emails saying your X platform service price is increasing. Even VIX raised its prices and probably its ads too. VIX is like Sabritas. Sometimes it feels like there's more air than chips. Even though Netflix reports profits, this streaming model isn't profitable for most companies. For example, in 2023, the Wall Street Journal reported Disney Plus has lost over $11 billion since its 2019 launch. And this year it was still reported that Apple Plus is losing approximately $1 billion per year. As a result, many companies raised prices, added ads to series and movies, and limited certain features, such as sharing your password with friends or family. But if Netflix is supposed to be doing well, why doesn't Netflix let you share your password anymore? Many years ago, sharing your password with family and friends was a common practice, accepted and even supported by Netflix. Who used to make posts like this where it said, "Love is sharing your password"? This is understandable since the company grew steadily each year, but its business model had limitations. Without the ads, Netflix could only boost revenue by gaining more subscribers, which it did. In 2022, Netflix lost subscribers for the first time, with numbers so low they're barely visible on the graph. This is partly due to growing competition as more streaming services enter the market, but mainly because there is a limit. Netflix has a limit it can't exceed since not enough people worldwide want or can afford a subscription. That's when Netflix noticed all the password sharers and decided to start charging them. This measure was very controversial and criticized, but Netflix showed that it already had the brand recognition and market positioning to pull it off. Despite complaints, people kept their service and many password sharers began paying. The decision was successful, as Netflix gained over 9 million new subscribers in the following months. It reported $9 billion in profits. And for the first time in history, they are not alone. Since in 2024, after years of losses, 3 streaming companies report profits for the first time: Netflix, Home Box Office Max, and Disney+. In the end, things seem to be going better for the companies, but what about the audience? How are we reacting to this era of changes, limits, and new prices? Chapter 3. Ahoy Sailors, The Return of Piracy. As reported by media like The Guardian and Wired, piracy reached a historic low in 2020 as only 130 billion visits to piracy sites were reported. It sounds like a lot, and it is, but it was also a historic low. However, the situation is changing. In 2022, it rose to 153 billion, then jumped to 229 billion in 2023. Given all we've seen, it's clear why more people consider piracy an option. According to a study conducted by the company Bango, which specializes in technology and marketing, Mexico is the Latin American country that spends the most on streaming services. Since on average, we pay for 3.8 memberships per year, which results in an approximate payment of $41 per month. That's $491 per year, which is quite a lot in a country where the minimum wage is around $450 a month. However, piracy is also evolving. Of course, there are still pirated movies at the stands and some people download torrents. Other websites already use this Netflix-like streaming format, making the experience more user-friendly. You have to deal with tons of ads and possible viruses, but at least it's free. And here in Mexico, a type of service is also becoming popular where you pay someone a monthly fee. They provide content from all channels and streaming services, though with some delay. The other day, for example, I went to see some friends play, and the bar we were at had the Superman movie playing in the background completely in high quality. I got up and asked the musicians to turn it down. Also, not everyone is joining the piracy trend. There are many people who are also choosing to subscribe and unsubscribe from certain streaming services in order to save money. You subscribe to Home Box Office for The Last of Us season, then cancel to save money? We're watching season 2 of Betty La Fea on Prime Video. It's terrible, but we're having fun. There are also websites where you can join with other people to share a password, in case that's still allowed. And special packages on services like Netflix at a higher cost so you can legally share your password with other people. People are finding ways to avoid overspending based on their time, finances, or morals. Who can afford all the streaming services, especially when we barely have time to watch any shows? And yes, piracy is illegal and it affects companies and productions. But in recent years, people have also been talking about a positive side to it, even among the creators of these productions. This nostalgic scene of looking at a bookshelf full of old DVDs of series and movies serves as the perfect ending for the film. Leave the world behind. Here we see how the world plunges into chaos after losing the internet and telecommunications. But this girl finds some comfort since she has in her hands the ability to forget her problems, even if just for a moment. With an episode of Friends. Many no longer have this ability because we've forgotten physical formats in today's world. And we fully trust digital streaming services, which need the internet to work. Streaming is convenient, but it also has some issues. Because it shows us that we own fewer and fewer things, and we're getting more used to renting. Sometimes, even when we think we're buying something, we're actually just renting it. Can we talk about the case of Cinepolis Click in Mexico, a platform where you could buy movies, but then it shut down and took its entire catalog with it? Or consider the Switch 2, a console that isn't truly yours since it can be remotely disabled if you violate the terms of use. And the scenario doesn't have to be as dramatic as a company going bankrupt or the apocalypse. Since streaming services are constantly removing content from their platforms, content that often was never available for sale in physical format. So there are many productions like the Bandersnatch episode of Black Mirror that are already considered lost media. This also happened for a long time with the last seasons of Arrested Development, but they recently became available again. All these productions are controlled by the companies. The only way to ensure future generations can watch these productions is if someone downloads and saves them. All of this shows us that the topic is very broad and that we can't just stick to the idea that only bad people pirate. It's partly an economic issue. The streaming services ecosystem, once simple and fair, became costly and fragmented, giving users more reasons to cancel their service, even temporarily, or watch productions illegally. There's also the question of ownership, since access isn't the same as owning. That's why more people are returning to physical formats. One that often has to be done illegally, because these are productions that were never released physically for sale. Ultimately, it's about balancing price, convenience, and selection. The audience has shown they're willing to pay for convenient access to a series or movie if the price seems fair. Although piracy rose sharply in 2023, there was a slight decrease in 2024. So we still don't really know for sure where things are gonna go. Maybe it's time to revive an old habit, saving and caring for what matters. Not just out of simple nostalgia for having a shelf full of DVDs, but because preserving culture is also an act of resistance in an era full of disposable products. I hope you enjoyed this video, and you would really help me out if you subscribe to the channel so I can keep making more content like this. Remember that if you want to make a purchase right now that back to school is over, you really help us a lot by using the link in the video description. That's all for today. I'm Go the Geek Monitor, and keep looking beyond what's obvious.